On today's episode, we're going to be talking about our expectations for Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün in year three, what threshold the Rockets need to hit to have a successful season, and we're going to be ranking the Rockets' young core from ceiling. We're just going to be talking about their ceiling and see who can hit the highest potential from those seven guys. And we have an exciting guest as well. It's a chop shop, Bradeaux and Will crossover. So y'all going to like this episode, so make sure to stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the episode of the Bradeaux and Will Show. I'm your first host, as always, Will. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Vice Houston. I'm going to quickly shout out the Bradeaux and Will page on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We're actually going to start putting some more content on TikTok for you guys, so make sure you guys tap into with that. And then, as always, we appreciate you guys continue to like, comment, and subscribe on the main YouTube channel. We've been doing lots of that over the off-season, so we really appreciate that. And with that, I'll pass it off to Brad.
Yeah, as always, y'all know where to find me at Bradeaux NBA at Instagram and Twitter. Stats, highlights, Rockets news updates. I got y'all covered. And today we got the chop shop, man, the man of the hour. We got Frank on the show today. It's great to have you on. Very exciting episode ahead. The listeners should definitely know who you are, but if they don't, let them know where they can find yourself.
Yeah, appreciate you, dog. Thank you guys for having me, by the way. Definitely love what you guys are doing. Love the flavor, of everything that y'all are doing. F Tank 58 on Twitter, Rockets Chop Shop on YouTube. Man, I'm ready to talk some Rockets basketball, bro.
Yeah, we got a fun itinerary today, and we're gonna kick it off to Will. He's gonna be running.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm gonna run it today, but I actually it just hit my mind because I'm like, you're from Houston. I assume born and raised in Houston, right?
No, I'm Nigerian, so I was born in Nigeria, but I was raised here. I came here when I was like 4, 5.
Okay. So native Houstonian for the most part, right?
Basically, Southwest Texas, baby.
Yeah. So we had a fellow Houstonian drop an album this week. I just want to ask you, did you listen to Utopia at all?
I swear to God, I just listened to the intro song at the gym. I don't know, it was a little.
And you cut it off.
It was okay. I switched it over. I was like, I need to listen to something else. Like the reason I like Astroworld, the albums, because of the Houston vibes. I listen to all sorts of like different types of music, but Travis Scott, I wish he would lean into more to Houston more. I think he tries to do a lot. And I get it as an artist, he wants to be versatile and stuff like that. But I think connecting that sound that he's trying to hit with the Houston vibes is what I really liked about Astroworld. I just didn't feel it on Utopia so far. Maybe I got to listen to some more tracks. But what about y'all? What do y'all think about it?
I liked it.
Okay.
Give it a listen. Give it a listen. A little thorough listen.
I'll give it a try.
Full blast. You'll like it.
Yeah, I'll say without talking about it too much, I liked it. I think that it's for somebody it's going to be an acquired taste. Like I think it's going to take you a little minute where you're like, all right, I'm feeling it. So I would say don't get discouraged if like on your first listen you're like, I don't know. Just kind of say give it like 3-4 listens, and if by then you ain't feeling it, I'll be like, all right, you can move on. But I need to see if my OG had heard the album. Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on it. But
no, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah. All right, so we can jump right into it. So the first topic of the day, obviously, is what do we expect from Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün going into the third season? Drafted in the 2021 NBA draft, Jalen was the second pick. Şengün we traded with OKC with pick 16 to draft him. And those guys have been through all the ups and downs of our rebuild up until this very point. And, here we are now. They're going into their third season. I think those two guys are at least going into the season are probably the two best guys under what are they 21 at this point? So the two best
21,
guys, 21, yeah. I think they're the top of that list at this point in time. So we'll let Frank start. Like, what are your expectations for them going into because this is usually the year where a lot of those guys who were the best young talent in the NBA, year 3 is kind of when that starts to manifest itself. So what are your thoughts on what we're going to see from them next year?
Do you all want to do it, Jalen and Alp, or you want me to say them together? How do you guys want to do this?
All right, however you want to break it down.
Okay, I'll start off with Jalen because in fact I was just talking about him today. The thing for him, and a lot of people think I'm low on Jalen Green, and which is weird because if you look at the content that I make, I really go into depth about some of his strengths and weaknesses. For me, Jalen is the prototype shooting guard, that kind of role that we've seen over and over in the NBA make impact on teams. The only thing that's missing for me for him, well, there's two things. Number one is that for Jalen, I haven't seen that defensive switch yet. Which, if you look at some of the greatest two guards in the NBA, the Kobe's, Jordans, I even throw Dwayne Wade in there, all NBA level defenders, and I think where I kind of fall off on where I peak Jalen's ceiling as a prospect is his ability to be a two-way player. I haven't seen the consistency there to put him on that echelon of like those like upper room Hall of Fame guys. But when it comes to his contemporaries, the Zach Levines and like Devin Booker, I think that is all still in the cards. And so the way I look at our guys is not like if I'm saying he could still be a Devin Booker, that's not a knock on Jalen Green. For me, selfishly, I want to do give me a Kobe, and that's why for this coming season, I know the point totals were there. You know, what I mean, he can score. We know that's probably his most easily achievable outcome as being a great scorer. What I would want for Jalen this year, if he can turn it up on defense, I think it would solidify his peak as somebody that could be one of the best players in the NBA, just overall when he reaches there. So for this season, my expectations for him, I think his efficiencies are going to be better. I think people are going to be shocked. His scoring may not go up because we have so many different players on the team now that can get it done on that end of the court. And especially with the type of offense that Coach Udoka runs, it's not like a Mike D'Antoni or Steven Silas guard centric, pick and roll, like where one guy's the savant of the whole team gets to pick everybody apart. It's more team, right? Drive and kick, drive and kick, drive and kick, pass it to the open man, keep driving and kick until the defense breaks down, and you're going to generate a lot of open threes for your teammates. Obviously, we saw with the Celtics, it can be successful with having two dominant scorers with Jalen and Jason, but I don't think he's at that level yet. So for me, my expectations, efficient season, turn up on defense. Let us know you have that because we know he's going to average 30 at some point in his career. If he can't use his athleticism, because if you look at Book is not a great athlete. If you look at even guys like Bradley Beal, not a great athlete. But Zach Levine's a great athlete. We never seen him flip that switch. That's why to me he's not the guy that he can be like the number one on a championship team. I don't want Jalen to fall into that category. So that's my expectations. And for Alperen, I think for him, it's really more of the same. Like I like what I saw from him this last season. Obviously, he needs to grow defensively. I'm really curious to see the impact of Dillon Brooks and Fred VanVleet on him, and just to see how they help him out with the type of defensive scheme that we ran, which is a drop coverage. I think they're going to keep some of that because that's what favors him. But obviously one of the most talented bigs, young bigs in the NBA. But can he be a positive impact on a team that wants to be good defensively? So if he can reach that, then I think all the other stuff their talent is going to take care of.
I'll say this. Jalen Green, I think you put it on the money. Obviously, the one thing you want to see improvement on is the defense, of course, and then offensively, you want to look at the efficiency side of things. You raised a good point. We don't know what this offense is really going to look like next season in terms of hierarchy or pecking order. It's not just like, oh yeah, Jalen's finna jump from 22 to 25, 26, 27 points. We don't know that just yet. As you said, the point total is going to be there. So I'm just looking to see if that efficiency increase. This is a guy who has been, pecked as an inefficient player. I think, the spacing issues have hurt him. He's had to create everything from beyond the three-point line and, going to the basket. We haven't really seen a lot of off-ball Jalen Green. So I'm looking to see how he can become an efficient basketball player. That's kind of going to help. It's going to be on Coach Udoka to some sense. So I'm excited to see what he can do to implement that. But for the most part, team-wide, defense. It needs to be a point of emphasis. Nobody can be lollygagging out there. It needs to be 125% every single possession. And I want to see what Jalen Green can do. I think Jalen Green can be a good defender. He's just extremely young. And he's still extremely light. He's 195. So that's going to help when he continues to gain weight. So I think he's going to improve the more years he has on him, the more muscle he gets on him. But the effort should never be an excuse. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Jalen does on that side of the ball as well. But that's my expectation. I just want to see an increase in efficiency and, playing defense, locking up on defense, having that mindset like I'm locking up anybody that's in front of me. That's what I want to see. So Frank and I had the same one. But for Alfred Şengün, my guy LP, I'm looking for him. I know he can do on the offense side of the ball. I want to see him shoot the three ball more. It was a point of emphasis for him to shoot in the summer. He said on our podcast he was working with his Serbian shooting coach. So we'll see what happens there. We all know Nikola Jokic is from Serbia, and he got a little strap on him. Because if you think of Alperen Şengün's basketball game, he's got that pump fake he does at the three-point line, and people will still fall for it, which is hilarious. But if that three ball is actually falling, it just adds another counter to his game. He's going to be that more dangerous. So I'm also looking for him to space the floor on a Rockets team that was dead last in three-point shooting. So I'm looking forward for that offensively. Defensively, of course, he was awful in drop coverage. Udoka said he's not going to just stick him and drop because he knows that's not what he's good at. So I'm interested to see how he's going to be used this year. He also said as a point of emphasis to work on his body. So he's trying to be quicker on his feet laterally. So I got to see how he's playing defensively as well. So again, that's what I would say for LP and Jalen.
For me, I think that I don't know, maybe it's irrationally high confidence in the two players on my team, but I think that we're going to see a huge I think they're going to look drastically better this season than they did in the previous two seasons. Because like I said, if you go look historically at a lot of the young talent in the NBA who were drafted high and came into the NBA with expectations to kind of lead their franchise to that next level, year three is kind of where that's supposed to manifest itself. And I will say, to be fair to those guys, they Jalen and Sengun were in the worst situation, of that kind of new era of young guys. So it might take them it wouldn't shock me. This is more like year 2.5 than year three itself for them. So I will be that bit grateful for them, but I do expect them to look drastically better. Like I said, one just by proxy of it being year three, but then also you're no longer coached by Steven Silas. You have a guy like Fred VanVleet on the court to help get you easier shots, easier looks. I think that we can talk about actually I do want to talk about Dillon Brooks later, but I think that just for what he may or may not bring offensively, defensively, that guy is as good as anybody in the NBA at that. And I think stuff like that, just having going from a non-NBA roster to one that's pretty solid now, right? I think that just by putting them in that environment with those veterans around them, I think they're gonna look a lot better. Jalen specifically, we've seen him this offseason. He's been working he's been locked in the gym the whole time. But we've seen him with Kevin Durant. I want to say, was it somebody else we saw him with this offseason? It was KD, and was it someone else? Y'all remember who?
I know Fred, KD.
Yeah, I know he's
I know
with
he had a
Kyle.
run with it was a bunch of guys in that run. I think I know the same one with KD had 4 or 5 NBA players there where they were training together. But yeah, he's definitely going hard this
Yeah,
summer.
and I feel like those are the environments that's really gonna help him unlock that next level of his game. So yeah, I'm confident that he's gonna look a lot better. I'm expecting for sure an efficiency leap. I think that's going to be one of the biggest noticeable increases from Jalen from year 2 to year 3. I think he's gonna look a whole lot more efficient. Just like I said, just by proxy of him getting better shots. He's stronger now. Udoka is not going to let him go out there, and I wouldn't say Jalen's a shot sucker, but his shot selection could use some improvement. I think that Udoka's going to help clean that up for Jalen. So I think when you combine it, his efficiency is going to look a whole lot better. And I think that we're going to see his scoring translate more to winning this year. I think that was one of the biggest things for him. And then with Şengün, same thing with him. I think that for the first time in Şengün's entire career, he has on paper a starting five that can be pretty competent defensively, right? Fred VanVleet, solid defender. I think we're talking about Jalen stepping it up defensively. I think that Jalen has shown you that when he's locked in on that side of the ball, he can be a good defender. I still remember there was a play against the Suns where at that final stretch of the game where he went out there and strapped up Devin Booker, right? Just prevented him from scoring that final possession. So I think Jalen Green can be someone who can be competent defensively when he wants to be, and I think that Udoka's going to demand more of that from him this year. So I expect Jalen to look pretty at least solid on that end this year. Obviously, Dillon Brooks, we all know what he can bring to the table defensively, and Jabari, he had his struggles defensively last season, but he's coming back. He has another year of NBA experience under his belt. He's a lot stronger this year, a lot smarter. I think we're going to see him look a lot better as a defender this season. So Şengün has a team, like I said, on paper that can play some pretty solid defense, and I think that you combine that with the fact that Udoka is going to be utilizing him differently defensively as well. I expect him to look a whole lot better on that end. I'm not saying he's going to go from like he's going to go to like a decoy level or like all NBA defensive level, but I think he can maybe be a neutral. Like I think that that could be a low end outcome from it just being a neutral defensively. When you factor in what he's going to bring offensively, like that might be able to kind of bridge the gap. The biggest concern for me, that's actually why I want to kind of segue to my next question. If we go to the next section, is like I do wonder where Şengün is going to fall in the hierarchy on this team because I'm pretty confident as of today that Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet are going to take more shots than Şengün will next season. Um, I do not know if he's going to take more shots than Dillon Brooks, and that kind of does concern me. So I do want to ask, like I was talking to you off camera, I want to ask you about this. Is I saw something the other day that said like Dillon Brooks was the second most overrated player in the NBA, and he's somebody who, man, his name has been dragged to the mud these last 2 seasons. And I mean, I'm not going to sit back like it's for absolutely no reason, but he's been through the ringer. And one of the biggest critiques of his game is that, like, the guy says he wants a larger role, right? He's coming off of the Grizzlies team where he was playing with Ja, Desmond Bain, Jaren Jackson, and said, hey, I want a larger role than that one. And so now he's coming to the Houston Rockets to be playing, with Jalen and Fred and Şengün. Where do you kind of see him fitting into that equation? And then how do you feel about, I guess, that signing in general? Like, where are you on that?
And just to, before we jump to that, I did want to, you brought up a good point about the impact of the structure that they were under as far as Jalen and Şengün. So I'm thinking about even some of the names I named, like Dwayne Wade or Kobe. They all came into more competent veterans. Like they had a
Yeah.
foundation to teach them. So I totally agree. I think that should be factored into any upside or any outlook on Jalen or any of the young guys on the Rockets is that they didn't really have anything. So I think even ties into what you said about the summer workouts. Like to me, the Fred connection opens up doors, and then the fact that Jalen is going to essentially like a contract year for him, where he's getting close to his extension talks. So I think all of that's going to lend to, and that 2.5 year thing, I think that's a real thing because this is going to be like opening day for the NBA for a lot of these guys because they're about to have some real pros around them. But that's a real point. As far as Dillon, the signing, I mean, I'm not going to cap. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that we paid. I don't know who were we bidding against. We went from get ready to learn Chinese buddy memes with him and remember there was the betting odds. I think the Shanghai Sharks were like
Yeah,
top 10
they were
to
on it.
sign him or something stupid like that.
Word.
So I'm not, y'all. I'm not lying. That was a real thing. So like to get to where we're paying him 21 something million for 4 years guaranteed. I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie, but he's a Rocket now, and we have to accept him and see what he can do on the team. Obviously, he's a great defender, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA right now. And the fact that he was going after LeBron and saying all these things, I get that it was kind of dumb in real time, but that's what makes him him. If he doesn't have that attitude that he thinks he can guard anybody, even LeBron, then he's not the same player. So that's almost like we were talking about. I think it's like the Russ thing. Like Russ is irrationally thinks he can shoot, he can do all these things, and if he's a lesser version of himself where he tries to tame himself, you get the Lakers Russ. So with Dillon, you got to accept the good and the bad. I don't think he's overrated. Maybe his contract may be overrated, but as far as his play, it's really the decision making aspect of it. As far as like, is he taking the right shots in the right moments? That's going to be a big question. I'm not going to lie. I can see a thing where the fan base starts to turn on him. You know what I mean? A la Christian Wood, depending on how he facilitates his time on the team. If he's a guy, let's say it's crunch time, you know what we like. We want to see our young guys get that rock, do that. Give it to Jabbar, give it to Jalen, give it to Şengün. Not let Fred close it. If Dillon doing them shots where he throwing up stuff, um, it can get ugly. I just hope that Coach Udoka can keep him in check as far as with the shot selection, because everything else he brings, the intangibles on and off the court. I mean, he's a great player. It's just that aspect of it is really what is going to be hard to tame, and it's hard for me to see a world where he feels like he doesn't deserve more shots on our team when you're coming off of Memphis, where it actually has all NBA level players, defensive player of the year, all star players, and he thought he needed more shots and more opportunities. So that's what I'm finding hard to reconcile. But I just hope for the best with him because it could be a really good thing or it could end really ugly, and that's where I'm at with the Dillon Brooks deal right now.
Before you go, bro, I just want to ask you one more question, Frank. Where do you like
Sure.
in that starting unit? Um, what option do you think he's going to be? You think he's the side? I don't
The
think it's going to
yeah.
be any higher than one or two. So is he going to be third, fourth, fifth? What option do you think he's going to be that starting?
If it, ideally, the number one option scoring wise, just getting a bucket is going to be Jalen, because that's who you're trying to groom him for as a perimeter player on a team that he's going to be the scoring option. And just to tie this in, what you asked about Şengün's role, I don't think Şengün needs to be a first offense type of guy. What he's going to be doing, I put out a tweet saying that there's only 3 centers in the NBA that were top 15 in screen assists and also top 5 for centers in assist percentage. And Şengün, Jokic, and Buddy in Sacramento, Sabonis. So I think that Sabonis 18 and 11 where he's just a facilitator for their offense is going to be Şengün's role. His points may cap out at 16, 17, 11 rebounds, but he's going to have like 6 or 7 assists. But I think if Jalen is first, I think Fred is going to have his say about the offense as well because Fred can go get it as well. Let's say him, then probably Jabari is third. I would have Dillon at fourth, and Şengün is going to get his points as they come up opportunistically in the flow of the offense. I don't think unless there's just a clear mismatch, I don't think he needs to be finding his shots. But there are games where he's going to be going against us, a small like Chet or somebody and I'm feeding Şengün. He's going to have 30 that game. So that's how I kind of see it. Situational and who has an advantage and what can the team stop. So it may change from night to night, but if it was just a clear cast, Jalen is one. I think Dillon should be around that 3 to 5 range on a given night because he can score too, but I don't think we need him to do that. That's not what I want his role to be on the team.
Yeah, I'll say this. When it comes to Dillon Brooks, he said he does not want to be fourth or fifth. So hopefully it is third. As Frank said, I don't need it being one or two. And I thought you brought up an interesting point, Frank. When it comes to Alperen Şengün, if they're using him the way they use, Domantas Sabonis, if he goes out there and averages maybe 6-7 assists a game, that's pretty much an NBA record for a 21-year-old center. So if he's doing that already at 21, and I think he can easily do that. We kind of saw flashes of it when KPJ got hurt in that little 18 game stretch, I believe it was, when Şengün was. That's when he started having his triple doubles. He can easily do that. Yeah. I'm hoping that's how he's used. I could care less about the points. I just really want him facilitating the offense. Same with Fred VanVleet or Amen Thompson. Pecking order wise, I just hope again it's up to Ime Udoka to keep his guy, and he labeled this guy Dillon Brooks as his guy. It was his signing. The Rockets weren't really interested in him until Ime Udoka was signed. So if Ime can keep him in check, then I think this is a really good sign. I won't call it an A++ signing because it is a bit of an overpay when their competition was the Dallas Mavericks on the MLE at around $12.5 million, and they paid him around $21.5 a year. Potentially 4 years, $90 million again if those incentives hit to make the playoffs. So, well, I don't know where he'll be on the pecking order. Again, we have to assume third if he doesn't want to be fourth or fifth. But even then, I don't want it to be like that. I want his shots to come when they come. It shouldn't have to be, I need to be the third guy on this team. That's a huge ego kind of thing. And I have faith in Udoka to shut that down because that's nonsense to me.
I would be worried if Fred wasn't on the team and it was just Dillon as our biggest signing. So I think that would be a disaster. But I think the Fred part is going to kind of offset some of that because one thing about the Memphis, they were young as well, like us. So it's hard and Dillon was kind of the older of the young guys in that group. So for him to have to kind of put himself to the side for guys that are younger than him, I can see that being hard. But when you have a vet like Fred, which is something Memphis doesn't have, now they have it with Smart, I think it does help establish the structure and hierarchy on the team because Fred's the point guard. So he's going to really be the one driving a lot of okay, let me get this guy his shots. Let me get this guy his shots. If Dillon Brooks goes out of character to get his, then he's like, to me, like I said, that's what's going to turn the fan base off on him is he's doing stuff like that out of the flow of the offense.
Yeah. We can shift it to the next part of the show, though. We're going to talk about, what our expectations are for next season, and more specifically, like what would the Rockets have to accomplish in order for next season to be considered a success or a failure. So I won't go first. I'll let Frank once again go first on this one as the guest. What do the Rockets have to do next year for you to consider next season a success?
Yeah, and this is a great question, and I think I love the way you guys worded it. Not really like what's the win totals. I think a successful season for us is going to be one where we actually see the linings of what we want to see when we're a contender. And for me, like is it does relate to how many games they win and what position they're in. I think what how many games they win and where they end up in the rankings are two different conversations. The win totals could be irrelevant to the rankings because the rankings are usually related to the rest of the league, right? If it's a tough year in the West where everybody's like slugging it out, 36 wins may not even get you close to the play-in. You know what I mean? It might be up in that low 40s to get in if all the teams are competitive. So I think win totals wise, we're like 31.5 on the over under. I think if we are below 35 wins, I would be very disappointed with the Rockets because to me, like any team that tries in the NBA, like you can just stumble into 35 wins. Orlando had 34 wins and they tanked the last stretch of the season to try to get a good pick. And
And
there
they
were
had like their roster was hurt last year too.
hurt guys missed a
Yeah.
lot of time. To me, you line them up with us as far as player for player. We have as much talent as they do. They're almost just as young as we were. The difference was they had a coach and a structure that they actually executed, and I think we have that now. Plus, we have vets. So I'm looking at us a successful season as one where, on a night-to-night basis, we have a chance to beat any team that we line up against, and that we hit the thread of between having Fred VanVleet, Dillon Brooks, Jacques Landale, Jeff Green, all these guys we signed play well and play efficiently and support. But at the end of the day, this cake that we're baking is going to be really made when Jalen, Alpi, Tari, Jabari, Cam, Amen are the guys that are going to be driving. And so I also want to see our young guys be able to experience meaningful games, being held accountable by the coach. And I think all of that naturally is going to translate to more wins. And whether they make the play-in or playoffs, like I said, that could be out of our hands. We could win 40 games and be like a 12 seed or something like that. But I do expect the win totals to be above 35. I do expect everybody to be better. And I do expect this to be at least like a top, maybe like 15 or 16 defense. If those things happen, that's scalable, meaning as the players develop and get better, those numbers are going to creep up. So I just want to see movement in the right direction towards being a contender. And to me, that'd be a successful season.
Oh, Brett, you on mute?
Muted.
I appreciate you. My boy was running the blender. I had to go on mute. But again, I think you're 100% right. When it comes to having a successful season, I just want to see strides into becoming a contender. So for me, I know off rip, the Boston Celtics started off slow with Ime Udoka, and then they finished the season. I want to say it was 28-7. They had a really good finish. So I know this young Rockets team is not going to happen right away, but by the end of the season, again, I want this team to have an identity. The Houston Rockets this past season, I wanted them to have an identity. They did not have an identity with Steven Silas in those past 3 seasons. So I want Ime Udoka to implement an identity. That means, what's their philosophy on offense, and I want them to stick with that. Of course, it's never going to be consistent, but I want them to at least understand what the goal is. And again, it shouldn't be too inconsistent with a whole bunch of things that don't work. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for, of course, win total to be a lot higher. You sign all these guys for a reason. You spend the most cap space in the offseason for a reason. And this is what you get. You have a coach who said he's never missed the playoffs before, and his expectation is the playoffs. So, again, my expectation would be, okay, hopefully they make at least a play-in push. It's like easier said than done. The Western Conference is extremely tough. So I won't personally say, that'll be my expectation, but I won't sit here and be mad if this team wins 40 games and misses the play-in. Because, again, that shows that they made a huge improvement going from 22 wins to 40 wins. That's a huge leap. So I'm more so looking at the win total opposed to if they make the play-in or not, because, again, that's going to be based on the rest of the Western Conference. But I want this team to make a huge stride, huge leaps, show me that they have an identity, lock up on defense, fix those mistakes that they've had the past few seasons. Of course, that comes with effort. That comes with, throwing fits on the court. And that comes with, running, structured basketball. So, again, you don't do all this stuff in the offseason. to come in here and win less than 35 games, as you said, Frank. Personally, I think those Vegas odds are insane at 31.5. If they go
Facts.
under that, that is the definition of a failure of a season. Like that's a F
Nah,
minus
somebody gotta get fired if that happens, bro.
season. So if they
Somebody
fall,
gotta lose their job.
Oh my god.
they say Vegas usually knows what talking about. I hope they don't. I think that those odds are low. It kind of scares me. But again, I like your threshold of 35. Personally, I'd like to see around 38, 40. Again, I think they could do it. I like the talent on this roster. They got to, patch up some of the mistakes from the rest of the young guys that are still getting those minutes. But I like the best that they brought in. They have the talent to really go out there and then run a good offense and play some good defense. So we'll see what they do. But that's what I got.
Yeah, I'm smashing the over on that 31.5. I think that's crazy. Like if we get 30, if we get 32 wins, I think that's yeah, like I agree with you. You said what 35 and under, Frank. I
Yeah.
think that would be that would be insane if we spent all the money that we spent, brought in the guys we brought in, and only won 34 games, 33 games. Yeah, that would be crazy to me. I want to sit here and tell you that I want them to make a play. No, I do want them to make a play. Actually, I'm not even act like
Me
I
too.
don't.
Yeah.
I want them to be the 10th seed. But I'm not going to act like it's a failure if they do not get the 10th seed. Mainly because how stacked the West is right now. Like the West is crazy. Like the Mavericks were the 11th seed last year, and they just got better. And a lot of the teams that are like looking to like blow it up, like Portland and San Antonio was a team that's kind of in that rebuilding phase. They weren't even in the playoffs last year, so it's not even like a spot is opening up. Like for the most part, all 10 of the teams who were competitive last year are still looking to be competitive this year. And so it's gonna be tough. Like I looked it up, a couple hours ago. The threshold for getting to the play-in was around like 33, 34 wins. The previous seasons before last, and then last season it was 40 with the Thunder, right? And that's a team I think who's gonna be a lot better this year as well. And so I think it's gonna be very tough to like crack. Like assuming 40 is the threshold again this year, or anything kind of close to that, that's gonna be kind of tough. But I will say one. Kind of going back to that year 2.5 stuff, a lot of guys who, like going back to, I remember I looked it up, Darius Garland, John Morant, Trae Young, and I understand 3-point guards, but like a lot of the young talent who's taking the top of the league in that year 3, they get their team to the playoffs, right? Like all 3 of those teams were playoff bound teams by those players' third years. And I think a lot of that was filled by that year 3 lead that those guys took. And I'm not saying that Jalen Green is going to back us to the playoffs, but I do think that him elevating his game, extremely elevating his game, is going to give us a massive like influx and wins on top of the fact that we're bringing in guys like Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks. And so whereas those teams made the playoffs, I'm just asking for the 10 seed. Just get me to playing, because I understand that y'all did not start on the same like ground zero that those teams started at. They didn't have the same structure and foundation as those Grizzlies teams, as those Cavs teams, as like the Hawks teams. So you don't have to make the playoffs. Just get me the 10 seed. But to be fair to them, because of how stacked the West is, as long as they're in the push, like if they're season in, we're every game matters, because if we lose it, that's a bigger hole we got to dig ourselves out of come playoff time. As long as they are able to do what they need to do in order to position themselves to make the playing tournament, like I think that I won't be mad if they fall short like a game or two. So that's just my expectations. Just be as close to the playing tournament as you humanly can be. And yeah, do not get under that 35 win threshold, Frank has said. But
Yeah.
yeah, go
And
ahead.
real quick, you think about like what a lot of these teams that are in that jumble trying to make the play in, you really start your playoff push like in April. Because I think, and that's an undervalued part of those teams that can make the play in or the playoffs, is that the competitive games. Because at the end of the day, what we want for our guys are to be able to play in games that mean something, and it pushes them to a new level where they're playing for higher stakes. And for some teams, that starts during the regular season, where if they lose one game, they're out. So it could still be a season, like you said, we get to 40 games. Maybe we didn't totally make the play in, or we did make the play in when we lost, or whatever. But the fact that they were pushing for it, and every game on a night to night basis had so much impact on their standing, to me is also something that we could look towards for development. So yeah, there's multiple ways for them to have a successful season.
And I want to say this really quickly before we move on. Frank, again, with this Western Conference, I think teams like San Antonio, Portland, and Utah are going to be teams that are going to be below Houston. Utah was a team that did pretty good last year for what they had, but that's a team that's going to be losing their first round draft pick if it's not in the top 10. So I'm not expecting them to go out there and try to win a lot of games. Personally, they probably will, but I'm sure they're not, eager to lose that first round pick. But are there any two teams, if the Rockets make the play and they need to jump two teams, are there any two teams you think the Rockets could potentially jump to make that plan?
I think New Orleans is on that this pack watch this coming season. They're going to be a team to look at, and obviously Minnesota is also a team because not because they're not. If they stay as is, I think they can be good. I'm just not sure what direction they're trying to go in. And then for any team that's in the top eight, y'all know the NBA is like a soap opera. Every day, every year, something different. One team that's up there is bound to fall. Somebody is going to crash out. It could be an injury. It could be circumstances that change. So um, there's a lot of outlook on the teams. Any of the teams in the bottom tier, maybe Utah's a third seed. Like we don't know what's going to happen this year. I just think for the Rockets on a night to night basis, when we line up, I don't see anybody in the league that should just be an automatic loss for us. And I think with that case, we've seen our guys playing close games. A lot of the stuff they crashed out because of bad coaching or they're just young. This year, some of that is going to be supplemented. So we'll see where the chips fall.
I want to say really quickly before we kick it back to Will, I 100% agree. Someone asked me this question a while back on Twitter. I said the Pelicans because we don't know what's going on with Zion. Can he even stay on the court? And then Minnesota, I didn't like how they played with Gobert and Cat on the floor. If I'm not mistaken, they had a negative plus minus together on the court. So again, those would probably be my two teams that could fall off. But even then, that's a long shot. And I got flamed on Twitter to say that, by the way.
But that's a good call. Well, the fan base is going to defend their teams, but yeah.
They should.
I got flamed for saying that I wouldn't trade Şengün for Zion. So
yeah, I was there. I saw that.
Man. I know how that is, man. But to move on to the conversation that I think everybody was really excited for, to rank the young guys on this team. And we threw a curveball in. I know Frank, you kind of done this exercise a couple of times. We threw a curveball in for Frank today. This time, we're going to include everybody's most hated combo guard, 6 man of the year. We're including Kevin Porter Jr. into this ranking. So, yeah, we're going to throw him in there into the ceiling, to the floor. We're going to rank these guys 1 through 7. And yeah, Frank, take it away. You got this probably should be easy for you. You've done this a couple of times now.
Yeah, I have. And when you said most hated, I thought you meant Knicks. Okay, so you weren't talking about Kevin Porter.
Nah, I guess second most hated.
No, I'm playing random straight for Knicks. My bad. So how do y'all want to do this? Y'all want to do this one by one or just rank them 7 through?
Yeah, you can just go. You can. What you mean?
Like as far as you want me to just go all at once from 7 through 1?
Just go. So yeah,
okay.
We'll do ceiling first,
then
and then we'll come
back
and do floor. All right, yeah.
Okay. All right, man. So I know, regardless, like we talked about, y'all aren't going to be happy about this listening to this. So y'all know I don't care. My number 7 is going to be, and this is similar to my list, Tari Eason.
And this is ceiling,
not because
right?
he's as far as I'm going to count downwards from most highest ceiling. Down to the lowest, or I don't want to say lowest because it gives a connotation of
negative connotation.
I'm going to just say relative to all of the talent we have. Here's who I think is going to have the highest. So Tari is at 7. I'm going to have Cam at 6. I'm going to have Kevin Porter at 5. Then Şengün at 4. Jalen at 3. Bari at 2. And Amen at 1. So that's Tari, Cam, KPJ, Şengün, Jalen, Bari, and Amen. That is my list. And for Kevin Porter, him being new on this list, it did kind of push me to have to think about what does a Kevin Porter like if he reached his peak. I mean, honestly, if he was as young as like maybe Jalen, I would have put him higher on the list because when you look at everything he can do as a player, his frame, his game, the potential, and when we're talking about peak, we're also talking about defensively. As a guard, he's a big guard that could score, facilitate, and if that defense is like all world, then you're looking at probably one of the best guards in the NBA. I do factor in the ability of realistically reaching that peak. That does push guys forward and backwards in my list. So because he's already like, what is he, 23 now, 22, 23 years old? I think it's harder for me to see him reaching that peak as the years come along, as it is for some of these younger guys. Like you said, Will, that year three, and I know his situation is crazy and different, but that year three is a real thing. It goes back as any guard, any big, like year three is an important year for young guys. And to me, I can really see what guys are going to be usually by year 3 and 4. Um, I just don't know if he has, but if he does reach his peak, he's an interesting player. But that's my list right there.
That's a good
Reg, you ready?
list. Yeah, I'm ready. That's a good list. I want to say my ceiling, and I actually did this exercise on the podcast this past weekend, so I was ready with this one. So ceiling
No
wise,
fair, right?
ceiling wise, I had Tari Eason at 7. Again, I love Tari Eason. I have to say that just because he's at 7 on the list.
Same.
But the Rockets have a talented young core when it comes to really, really high potential. So I'd have Tari at 7. I'd put Cam Whitmore at 6. I think he could shoot out of a cannon and be one of those guys. He just turned 19. I like Cam Whitmore sitting a lot. KPJ, this is a guy who was the best player on the team. Some would say he's the best player on the team. You could say him, Şengün, whoever you want to say. But for him to be in that conversation says a lot. And I just know a guy with a 6'6" frame, 6'9" wingspan. If he's able to lock in on defense and he puts all those tools together offensively, being used in the right way, he can be an extremely good player. So that's why I have KPJ at 5. It's a lot of versatility to his game. 4th, Jabari Smith Jr. I like Jabari Smith's game a lot. All-around player. When that jump shot comes in, the defense is going to come and he's going to be locking up potentially 1 through 5, hitting the 3 ball, can create for himself maybe at his fullest potential. He can be insane if he hits his full potential. So I got him 4. Alperen Şengün, this is a guy who I think will fall in between Jokic and Sabonis, which is very, very high in terms of potential. If that jump shot comes in, he's going to be insane. Well, I never think he's going to be an elite defender, but if he's able to become a serviceable defender at his fullest potential while hitting all the marks I think he can hit on offense, he's going to be ridiculous. Probably the closest thing you'll ever see to a Nikola Jokic, in my opinion, just because he's doing it at such a young age. So I got him at number 3. Number 2, I had Jalen Green. Jalen Green, work ethic through the roof. We know how his scoring is. He's giving off those vibes as a guy who could potentially be a scoring champion one day in this league. Now he's in the right situation to kind of show those things. Once the weight comes in, the muscle comes in, we're going to see some of that two-way side of him, hopefully, that we're looking to see. Frank, tapped on before. I want to get a Kobe, but if we get a Devin Booker, that's not a bad thing. And maybe it is a Devin Booker or Bradley Beal. Hopefully better than Bradley Beal. But even then, that's a tough for a 6'6" guy with a bunch of bounce. First, I'm assuming Will probably has Amin there as well. But again, I don't need to explain this one too much. Amin, 6'7", 7-foot wingspan. He can be elite defensively, being able to switch throughout the entire court. Offensively, elite playmaking. If he gets anything that resembles a jump shot, it's clip. It's really that man's gonna be special. And he has a good instinct at the paint as well. In between game needs work too if he gets that.
Yeah.
But his work ethic again through the roof. So I have a feeling any guy with a 6'7", 7-foot wingspan with a 1% top 1% athlete, that's gotta be number 1. Well, what you say, Will?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna preface it by saying no matter what order I gave, people were gonna say I hated somebody anyway. So but somebody has to be last. And I also want to I think Frank put it pretty well. Just being last on this list is not an insult. That's not a you're trash because you're dead last. I think we have a really talented group of people and somebody needs to be at the bottom. But I think we all had Tari Eason at 7. And that's not a knock against Tari. It's just I think that his ceiling is pretty limited, but I think he's gonna be I actually have him. I'm not gonna spoil it, but he's a whole lot higher on my floor list than number 7. So I have Tari at 7. I actually kind of struggled a little bit here. This is one that I actually went back in my head on a lot. So I guess I'll kind of say they're both in this range. I have Cam Whitmore at 6, and then I have Jabari at 5. But I could be talked into it either way. But I'm gonna give the edge to Jabari because of his two-way ability. And I mean, he did flash a little bit more to me. I know it was Summer League, which is a 2-game sample size, but he flashed a little bit of some stuff I hadn't seen him in before. He was, putting the ball on the floor a little bit more, drawing fouls. He made a lot of really good, connected passes out the post. So if that's a preview, I actually would have him a lot higher than this. If like that's more like going to be a staple of his game moving forward, I would probably I would have him a whole lot higher. But just kind of going off of what we've seen so far and what I saw from him at Auburn, I would probably put him at 5. Controversial name. I have Şengün at 4. And it's not like I think it's not an insult. It's because I think the next couple guys I'm finna name have significantly, or not, I would say significantly higher, but I think their ceilings are like really, really high. And so I know the controversial name is KPJ. I got him at 3. And the reason I have KPJ at 3 is because I look at his game, and obviously he's not James Harden. He's not Luka Doncic. He's not, that's kind of what Steven Southworth molded him into last season. And that's not who he is, and he'll never be that guy. But I see, once you look past it, I see a guy who is 6'6". I don't know what his wingspan is like, but he's built. And in my opinion, there's not really one area on the floor offensively that I don't think KPJ can't, like, at his ceiling could be really, really good at. Like, I think he's obviously an elite shooter. I think he can be effective in the mid-range post area. His finishing could use some improvement, but we saw like his first season in Cleveland when he was a little bit stronger. He was surprisingly pretty good at finishing and getting to the rim. And then he's super crafty. Has one of the deepest bags in my opinion in the entire NBA. He's athletic. I actually, like, one of the things I was disappointed in KBJ in last year was his defense, because I think that he can be a whole lot better defensively than what he showed. And so like I just think that he's a very complete player if he were to put it all together. Obviously, like, him doing that is a different conversation. But if you were to take everything that KBJ has flashed being good at and saying, hey, let's put that all on, if this is 2K, put it on 99 overall, I think he would be I think that would be the third highest ceiling on the team. But I have Jalen at 2, and Amin at 1, and that's kind of round out my list. And it's just because I think Jalen Green has, I think his potential is like limitless. Like I don't really know what a Jalen Green ceiling looks like. Like I said, it could be Devin Booker, it could be Kobe. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really know. And like 90% of the time, I would have Jalen Green as the highest on this list if it wasn't for I am like stupidly sky high on Amin Thompson and his ceiling, because I think that guy, same thing with KPJ, or actually better than KPJ. There's not a single like flaw in his game outside of obviously the jump shot concerns, right? But I'm not that concerned with this jumper. I think other people are. I think that he's a hard worker, and he knows that that's an area he has to improve upon as his career progresses. So I'm very confident that when it's all said and done, Amin Thompson is going to be a capable floor spacer. I don't know who's ever going to be an elite one, but I think he'll be capable. And then when you factor that in with everything else he does at you're expected to be at like a borderline elite level, whether it's rebounding, it's playmaking, it's his S-tier athleticism. He has one of the best first steps I think in the NBA. One day, like I think that guy is gonna break basketball. And one thing I've preached about a lot for me is I think that jumbo playmakers are like that's what you need to win a championship. Like, if you look at a lot of the teams that do it, obviously you got LeBron, and then Draymond to a lesser degree. But like Giannis is a capable playmaker. He's 6'11". Kevin Durant, somebody from that mold, like just having someone who, and I think Amin Thompson next to like LeBron would have the highest IQ of that, or maybe Draymond of that bunch, right? So just having somebody 6'7" with the IQ of a quarterback who can make every pass in the book, yeah, man, I am sky high on Amin Thompson. I think he's going to be the best player on this team. It's all said and done.
But it's crazy. We got 2 jumbo playmakers on the team.
Yeah, 2 of them. And that's one thing I was talking about too. We did a podcast before this. I think that the Şengün Amin Thompson pick and roll is going to break basketball. I think that's gonna because I don't even know how you stop that. Both guys are capable of making every pass in the book and are willing to make every pass in the book. Amin putting pressure on the rim. Şengün's already a great screen setter, great roller to the back. I don't know how you stop that.
Do you remember they were running inverted pick and rolls with Şengün and KJ?
Yep.
So you could do some of those. I mean, it's nasty. It's if I was a coach, I'd be excited to coach.
Yeah, it's gonna break hoops. But it's amazing. Then we'll talk about the ceilings. We can move on to the floors. We're good. All right, Frank, take it away. You got the floor conversation.
All right, so the floors, just like you said, different conversation. To me, the way I define looking at players' floors is really put a lot of emphasis on realistic outcomes based on their current skill sets, and I kind of factor in like what would they look like on a regular NBA team if I just plop them in the starting 5. So my lowest floor player is Cam Whitmore. And I'm not ragging on Cam. The reason I'm low on his floor and kind of his ceiling, his archetype is really hard for me to see what type of star or superstar he would be. And if even if I like imagine all the way out, it turns into like a good scorer, maybe an elite level scorer that's a great athlete. But to me, the playmaking and the fact that he's such a very incredibly limited playmaker does take away a lot of that for me because to me that's really what defines a next tier star is the ability to not only impose your skill on the other team, but when they start adjusting to it, you got to punish them for it. And he's so far behind in that right now that's why I kind of limit that. But also with his floor, the just the tunnel vision, some of the things he needs to work on. He's obviously super young. I'm curious to see over the next 2 years how he turns, how his career progresses as far as his on court play. Bari is going to be number 6 for me as far as a floor player because obviously he was like one of the worst players in the NBA for like half a season last year. So hopefully he can turn that around. I think secretly I believe he has a high floor. I just haven't seen it, so I can't give him the benefit. KPJ is next on that for the same reasons. He's falls to 6 on the list here is for the same. He's already older, so I have to kind of fault him for that. Like he's been in the league longer than these guys, so the older you are, the more kind of what you are. Like you're gonna get better, but the leaps in 1, 2, 3, and 4 are really more drastic than what you would see as guys go 5, 6, 7, 8 and onwards. Jalen for size. Just like with Bari, I need to see more for him to say that I can put him on any team and he's going to be a positive. Obviously, defensively, just fitting on that, taking better shots, getting stronger, finishing better. All those things he needs to work on. Third is Amen Thompson. Will, you summarized it great. I mean, imagine Russell Westbrook with a savant level IQ as far as controlling his shot selection. A guy that can still drop 30 on you, 40 on you, and potentially one day 50 on you because he can just attack, 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 have, 15 assists. Like he has all of that. I think Amen is, in my opinion, he's the best prospect we've drafted to date. And I think
I agree.
Stone knows that. I think the Rockets know that. They might say Jalen, whatever. To me, he's the guy we've been waiting on. Then Şengün at number 2. I think Şengün has obviously shown it. There's only 2 positive players on the Rockets this past year that were a positive impact when they were on the court. It was Şengün and Tari Eason. And then by default, Tari Eason is my highest floor player. I'm really, really high on Tari. I think between where I have him as the number 1 on the floor, the 7th on the ceiling, as far as if I ranked him as a prospect, he's in the middle. Like as far as if I'm ranking our prospects, because there's a world where he does have a really high ceiling, self creation, playmaking. He was playing point guard in summer league for the majority of the time that he played. I mean, he was dishing it off to attacking, playing, running pick and rolls. The defense is special. Probably our best young player right now as far as impact, like just right now, like not potential. So that's why I have him number 1 on my floor list. So that's my list.
Our lists were pretty similar. I'll
Hey,
take it.
great minds think alike. We'll catch up, bro. You
I'll say
slip.
because mine
You
is not the
slip.
same.
No, I'm just-
So I'll say this with Cam, we really haven't seen much of Cam. And again, only 19 assists in 26 games at Villanova this past year. Being a connective piece is very important. But again, that skill set is through the roof, which is why ceiling and floor is 2 different conversations. So we'll see what this 19-year-old kid has in store. He's still very young. We haven't even seen him play an NBA game. So it's not disrespectful to put him at 7 for now. Let's see what the brother can do on the court come October. So that's what I have at 7th. 6th, I have Kevin Porter Jr. right now. His floor, I have him like that because, of course, when you think of Kevin Porter Jr., it's not necessarily basketball. It's things outside of basketball. If those things take over, then Kevin Porter Jr. might not even have a role in the NBA. But I do have faith in Kevin Porter Jr. that all that stuff is behind him. But this is a floor conversation, so let's say those things come into play. He might not be on the NBA roster. And then also, I don't know if he's going to be a starter level player at his floor. So, I mean, that's just me with Kevin. No disrespect to him. Again, I have him on my ceiling. I had him 5th on a good young core. So I love Kevin's game. 5th, Jabari. I have Jabari 5th because, as Frank said, very slow start to last season. The jumper was a concern, and it was supposed to be knocked down. So if that jumper never comes, that's obviously a big red flag because that's supposed to be his game, high volume 3-point shooting. So we need to see that 3-pointer come in. I'm pretty content. He'll become a really good defender at his floor. But creation-wise, we still need improvements in that aspect as well. So I have him as 5th on my list, but I still think at his floor he's going to be a really good player. That's just me personally. 4th, I actually had Jalen at 4 as well. Frank, do you have Jalen 4th?
Yes, same.
See, look, great minds think alike.
Yeah,
I got
same.
Jalen 4th because, again, Jalen, I need him to become better efficiency-wise, and then also he's got to be a better defender. Those are 2 things that are very important in basketball: defending and being efficient. Two areas I think he'll be fine in. But again, if those things never come, that's going to be an issue. But he'll always be an extremely talented player. And he might fall into the ranks of a Jordan Clarkson. That'd be like his kind of floor. I don't want to see that. He needs to project way higher than Jordan Clarkson. I think he does. So I have Jalen at 4th. 3rd, Amon Thompson again. I think he comes in doing a lot of things at an elite level. Not elite. Let me stop. At a really good level, I think Amon Thompson's coming in being really good at a lot of things. I think he's coming in day one being a good defender, good playmaker, and good at putting pressure on the rim. I think all those things he's gonna be able to do day one, and he has that elite work ethic. But sometimes you just can't fix a shot. However, you could spend a million hours in the gym. Sometimes that jumper don't come. And at the NBA level, at the one position, if you don't have a jumper, it is a concern to a sense. So, I mean, I have him 3rd in the sense that his jumper is broken forever. So that's why I have him 3rd. 2nd, I put Alperen Şengün because we already saw what he can do at 19 and 20. I mean, that's his floor. I can only see him improving. If he doesn't improve, we've seen what he can do. He's an extremely good basketball player, and that's with him being misused. So, I mean, his floor, he doesn't develop a jumper. The defense is bad. But again, really, really good in the post, really, really good at creating for others. I think on any team in the NBA, what he did last season, he would have been an impact player because that's how good he was for his Rockets team this past season. Tari Eason, I have him at number 1 just because I think Frank put on the money. He was by far the most impactful player in my eyes, in the sense that you could plug him on any team and he's making an impact. A guy like this, you don't have to run any plays for him. He's gonna find a way to get the basketball, whether that's getting a steal, or getting an offensive rebound, or diving on the floor. He's hustle play, hustle play, hustle play. And that's what you need in the NBA. Guys like that who don't care about anything but making the hustle plays, all the hustle plays. He was one of the best offensive rebounders in the NBA this past season. On Basketball Index, 100th percentile in offensive rebounding talent. He had the 2nd highest grade in their past 10 years for any forward. And that forward was like a center. It was like Ken Fareed. That doesn't even count. Tari Eason is he's like that when it comes to getting those rebounds and again steals, deflections, doing all the little things. And the jumper even looked good. And I think that's going to improve. So Tari Eason, yeah, best floor, because I know without a doubt in my mind, he's going to be in this league for a long time because that's just the kind of vibe he was giving off. What you got though, Will? Let us know how we did.
Mine is a little different. Did everybody had Cam Whitmore at 7 though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have Cam at 7 as well, but my 6 is going to be a little controversial. Please don't kill me. I got Alperen Şengün at 6, and it's not because I don't think Şengün's talented. Because I think he was the best player on the team last year, but I think when it comes time to play winning basketball, I don't know if Alperen Şengün's defense that he showed us last season would allow him to be on the floor to show what he showed us offensively last year. I think that one of the luxuries of him being on a team with no expectations. Now, mind you, we didn't take advantage of those expectations enough with him. But one of those advantages is that if he's not as up to par defensively as a big, it's not as consequential because we're not really playing for wins anyways. I think if you were to put him on a team with the expectations of winning basketball games, then he was going to have to go out there and be because I don't know if you put him on the Hawks, they're not going to take the ball out of Trae Young's hands to give it to Şengün in the post, right? That's not happening. So I think a lot of those good teams, they already kind of have their creators. They're not going to be asking Şengün, at his floor to be like the focal point of their offense. And so I don't think he's going to show as much offensively. And he's going to do a little bit more, of the little things, which include protecting the rim and grabbing rebounds. And I think he's a good rebounder. But I don't think that his defense is going to be able to, like I said, in like those playoff series. Right now, I don't know if it would stand. I think he'd probably have to be a little bit more of a backup 5. And so that's why I have him at 6. At 5, I struggled again, but I went ahead. I erred on the side of youth, so I put KPJ at 5 and Jalen at 4, just 'cause I think they're kind of similar players at their 4. But Jalen's younger, so I gave him a little bit more of the edge in that department. But I think that they're both like, and their floors around like the Jordan Clarkson kind of guy, just the guy who can kind of come off the bench, give you a couple buckets. You know what I'm saying? Get some instant offense and like kind of a spark plug kind of guy. I think those are their floors. Number 3, I have Amin Thompson. And I think Amin Thompson, I know people probably would look at him and say like he can't shoot, so he has to be like dead last almost. But I think that as a point guard, if he can never space the floor, I think that will kind of hurt his ceiling as a point guard. But as a basketball player, like I think he can still be one of the most effective guys in the NBA, even if he never develops a jump shot. I don't think he can be like a lead ball handler, but as a connective piece on a winning team, like I think he can absolutely do that. He can set screens. He's already shown the aptitude and the willingness to jump on a loose ball, or to sacrifice his body to make a winning play, to go up there and grab a rebound. The play that he got hurt in summer league was because he went up to the block of a 5, and he did for his credit. He blocked them and came down on his ankle, right? So I see a guy who can switch, be very versatile defensively. I think that when you're as high IQ as he is with that athleticism, there's gonna be a role for you in the NBA. It may not be point guard, but like I look at him as like supercharged Aaron Gordon of the Nuggets, right? Like he can be as athletic, as versatile as plays above the rim as Aaron Gordon can. But then on top of that, he can have, not saying he will be Draymond, but he can have like the passing, playmaking types of like a Draymond in terms of like setting the screens and operating at the top of the key with the ball in sense and making the right play from there. So I have on the top. Matter of fact, I probably should put him a little bit higher, but whatever. I have him at 3. I have Jabari Smith at 2. I know that's kind of another controversial name because he was really bad last year. But I I just have a feeling that last season was an anomaly for Jabari. There's nothing about what I saw from him in Auburn. I wouldn't have bet any sum of money that he would have the season he had last year. Like I just knew for a fact that's not the season he would have. I thought he would be. I didn't think he was going to be like an elite knockdown shooter from day one, but I thought he would be league average. I thought his defense would translate a little bit quicker than it did. So I'm not going to go against what I thought about him pre-draft entirely, just because I do know that he was put in a difficult situation to succeed in his rookie season. So I'm still very high on Jabari Smith and his floor, despite what he showed us last year. I think that he's going to get back on track, and his floor is still in the day a 6'10", 6'11", 3-and-D wing who can go out there and guard multiple positions and hit an open corner 3, right, or at the top of the key 3, right. I think that's still what he can do. So obviously that's a extremely valuable guy who would be probably a starter on all 30 teams in the NBA. So I'm still really high on Jabari Smith's floor. And I think we all had Tari Eason at 1, and that's just because like that guy came in like literally from game 1 as like we saw a conceivable path for Tari Eason from game 1 to be one of the most high impact role players in the NBA, like from the jump. I think Brad touched on it. Like you don't got to draw plays for him; he just makes stuff happen. Whether that's with his defense, he's jumping passing lanes or playing aggressive defense, or like his offense. He doesn't give up on plays like grabbing offensive rebounds. Remember, there's like a play. I don't remember who we were playing, but he probably like padded. He got like 4 offensive rebounds because he kept missing a layup and grabbing it, missing and grabbing it. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't give up on the play, and the way it ends is he got an and one layup to go down. So just like having that motor that I'm never gonna give up. I'm always, I don't care how tired I am. I'm gonna go get that rebound. I'm gonna jump on the ground for the loose ball. So I'm gonna take the charge. I'm gonna, whatever it is that he has to do to get your team to win. Tari Eason has shown me from the jump that like he's going to do that. He just makes winning plays. And so yeah, I have him as the highest. I think he would be if a team was like looking at our roster and was like, give me one guy to make a championship push. I think they would want Tari Eason. So yeah, that's my 7. Anybody have anything they want to add before we start kind of wrapping it up
Yeah,
here?
I would say obviously the Şengün one is going to get you flamed in the
Yeah, I'm
comments,
gonna get
but
flamed.
I would say they are like thinking about his skill set. I would push back a little bit just because I think there are some teams like Brooklyn and some of these teams that really don't have an offensive creator that could utilize what he does, especially when they have perimeter players. To me, a lot of what we saw, and I think you hit on something when you said if you have a team where the center is supposed to be the back line and he's not great, then it's really going to be exposed if your perimeter defense is bad. And I think the Rockets were in a perfect storm for that, where you're asking somebody to play a position where the perimeter is so porous. It's just like both sides are getting exposed. Like there's no, it's a lose lose situation. I think this is a big year for him to show that with the help of other players around him, can he just be in position to make the plays he's supposed to? Because I just found this out a few days ago, just by looking through NBA.com stats. Chicago had a top 5 defense, and they have a similar archetype of Vucevic as their
That is
center.
true.
And so it's really like, I mean, I think of like for him, not saying he's gonna do it, but I think the path for a player like him to be impactful on defense is not really like erasing shots at the rim. Is can you get your big body in the way and then let the help come when it helps and rotate when you need to. Like if you go watch Marc Gasol and that Raptors team that won it, he was playing against the Warriors when they played them because he's just smart. He's always in position. He helps when he's supposed to. He recovers when he's supposed to. Şengün, if can you do that? Because he struggled on that as well. He was overhelping, not in position, taking risk he wasn't supposed to. Young guy stuff, just like all our other
Yeah,
young guys. So I hope that that's something that he does improve on this coming season.
that's valid. Like I didn't even really think about that the Chicago did it with like a top 10 defense with Vucevic. So
Which was weird. I'm still trying to figure
yeah.
out how.
I mean,
But
they had Caruso was somebody I wanted the Rockets to trade for
true.
like so badly because
Yeah.
he's like insanely good defensively. So he's he's definitely one of these rich rednecks. I don't know. I might think about it a little bit more and then move him up, but I'm gonna stick with what I said so far. So, Brad, you want to add anything, or you want to start rapping?
Got enough to add. That was a fun exercise. I thought Frank gave a really good list, and ultimately, I'm happy that Frank was able to come on the show. Again, we got the chop
Yeah,
shop,
I appreciate you.
crossover. So, I mean, it was a really fun episode. So, I appreciate you for coming on.
No, I appreciate y'all for having me, man. Anytime y'all want me to come through, let me know. We don't have to do it on my end though, so I'll let y'all know.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. For the listeners at home, I think I said it a couple times in the show. If you're not like tapped in with the Chop Shop content, I think you're doing yourself a disservice as a Rockets fan. I don't just come on here and just cap. Like that's good content. Like it's really good. So if you're a Rockets fan, you need to subscribe to that channel. It's just like with Rockets Chop Shop on YouTube, right?
Yes,
That'll
sir.
pull it up.
Rockets
Yeah.
Chop Shop. Yes,
Rockets
sir.
Chop Shop,
Appreciate
pull it
y'all.
up, hit the subscribe button. You're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. But like I said, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back next time.